Hello, this is Dr. Harriet Fraud, bringing you Capitalism Hits Home, a podcast about the mutual shaping of the society, the economy, and our own personal lives. Today, I want to talk about complements of democracy at work. I should have said that. Democracy at Work is an organization that is a nonprofit devoted to presenting the economic model that has no hierarchy, no boss versus workers, but of a cooperative sharing economy, which is an economic, political, and really emotional solution to a lot of the problems we face. My topic today is Trump as totem. Now, first of all, what is a totem? A totem is a person, or it used to be referred to in anthropology as an animal that represents the power and importance and unity of any clan of people. In terms of human beings, a totem is an almost mythical figure. He captures people's hopes. He or she captures people's hopes, their dreams, their rage, their need for retribution, their need for justice, and their sense of being denied and needful. Trump does that for his followers. He's an almost mythic figure, which is why his 34 felonies can be excused. I will explain that. Trump, like Hitler, unifies his isolated, lonely followers. They are together enchanting. They are together with the effervescence that a huge crowd brings, with the power that their voices are combined with other voices under the worshipful leadership of Donald Trump. If you look at any of the footage of Hitler's rallies, people are raising their hand in salute, in unison, and chanting in unison because they are united at that moment in the excitement and power of what's defined by Hitler as the pure German people. They're no longer impoverished, which they were. They're no longer subject to outrageous, uncontrollable inflation, as the Germans were when Hitler rose. They are powerful. And so Trump becomes a totem. He becomes an embodiment of people who feel that their hopes have been smashed, that the American dream has robbed them of their power, male power to support families, if parenthetically they happen to be white, but male power to support their families, support dependent women in the home, support their children, and give their children and they a hope that their children will do better economically than they did. That dream is dead. But Trump, with his totemic promise to make America great again, gives people unity and hope the way a totem does. He's an almost mythical figure. Of course, just like with Hitler, anyone who is an enemy of the great and powerful unifier should be exterminated. Hitler named the Jews as being a fourth column, making Germany weak, and they should be exterminated, as should be the LGBTQIA communities and communists and socialists. And people joined him in hating those that stand in the way of the mythic dream of the great German people. Trump names migrants, Democrats, and progressives as the people who are, in his words, and Hitler's, I must say, vermin, contaminating the blood of the American people. These are lines he got right out of Mein Kampf, Hitler's basic Bible. And his followers can turn and hate those people who take down the great leader and their great hopes. And they are imbued with power, with a kind of effervescent power in the presence of the great leader. According to Joseph Campbell, who is probably the authority on myth, has many books, in his book called Thou Art, Joseph Campbell says, once a person reaches that savior symbol status, they can do no wrong in the eyes of their zealous adherents. As some of Trump's admirers and followers' T-shirts say, Jesus is my savior. Trump is my president. So Trump is bringing holiness to them, unity and blessing. That's why Trump's $60 Bibles are actually selling. That's why his gold sneakers are selling, and he's, of course, making money off of them. And the little gold figurine that they sell of Trump, gold in color, wearing shorts of stars and stripes, showing how very American he is. That figurine is also for sale. It's another sacred, symbolic creation. Now, why should Americans go for this? Why should they abandon their reason? Why shouldn't they see that this guy isn't one of them who's been withheld? He got $214 million from his daddy to start his career, and he's had 6 bankruptcies. A lot of his businesses have failed, but he's been wildly wealthy. He's one of that elite that he denounces. He's also fake skin, fake hair, elevator mechanisms in his shoes to make him look even better. And he's also quite feeble. He can't walk up a hill, and he's fat and out of shape. But Trump is perceived as a demigod, a mythic figure who will save America and take us back to when we were the biggest empire in the world, before the capitalists exported American jobs, well-paid jobs, in order to make more money for themselves. And men could support dependent wives and children. And since after World War II, all the economies were destroyed, we dominated, and we dominated the world. And the extras were given to Americans, who are now suffering as the American empire is falling. Why would people go for that? Why wouldn't they see through it? The guy has 34 felonies. He's obviously out of shape. His wife doesn't even like him and won't live in the same place. He was given wild amounts of money and advantage. He's failed at many things, but they see him as a demigod, a symbol steeped in authority and possibility and holding their hopes. Why? How could they suspend their reason? Well, I think that children are often taught to suspend their reason. Children grow up in a family dictatorship, usually. Their parents are omnipotent. And particularly in America's Bible Belt, the South, Texas, and parts of the Midwest, are the Bible Belt. And religious child rearing is particularly authoritarian. James Dobson, their guru of child development, the best-selling books, How to Raise Your Child, in that Christian evangelist community, advise breaking your child's will. Don't tolerate the willful child. Use physical punishment. Show your child you are the boss and they must succumb and they have no right to question you. So children go from authoritarian families into an authoritarian religion, to authoritarian schools, and they learn to subordinate their questions, their doubts, and their reason in order to follow the omnipotent leader. They suspend all of that. And Trump's adherents are overwhelmingly from the Bible Belt, those states that are the most religious. Also, curiously enough, if you look at the map, they're the states with the most male sexual insecurity. They're the people who buy the most testosterone creams and penis extenders and so on, because they feel their masculinity is threatened, because they no longer can dominate women. They no longer have a full-time servant in the home, because even if their wife didn't divorce them, as 70% of women do, they can't support her as a dependent because they can't make enough money to sustain the family by themselves. And so his adherents usually grow up in these authoritarian families that deliberately teach them to abandon their own questioning, their own ideas, their own assertions of self. That's very, very important, because they also learn to hate the part of themselves that wants to question. And then they project that on anyone who questions. The infidels, the ones who ask questions, the ones who disobey, the ones who don't go along with the program. And they become quite violent. One Trump supporter shot a person passing his home, a person from the Black Lives Matter protest marching past his home, because those who don't obey and those who don't revere the great leader who ennobles them should be exterminated, as Hitler and Trump suggest. Lock her up, right? Get rid of the migrants who are the Jews for Trump. They are vermin polluting our blood. Get rid of uppity black people and uppity women and use them. And so it really does make sense that they see Trump as a totemic, mythical, symbolic figure who empowers them in their rejection of other people as poisoning their holiness and their blood. Now, that is why they buy his merchandise. That's why he hasn't spent any of his own money running, because he's merchandising everything and they're buying it. Even though they could get a free Bible at any hotel, they pay $60 for a Trump Bible because his holiness, his sacredness, and his symbolic power has imbued that Bible. So is there any hope? What does one do against a totemic figure? And Trump is certainly a totem. Well, One of the things you do is you get a powerful opponent who stands up for the things that are reasonable and kind and actually benefit the mass of people, like price freezes, like housing regulation, like food regulation, like empowering the 97% of us who are employees and taxing the 3% of us who take up over 80% of the wealth of this country. Someone who declares that and is powerful. And Biden doesn't do those things. So you need a candidate who stands for the American people, the real people who work for a living, not a parasitic, spoiled, elite man who lies and has 34 felonies and rapes women and affirms those values, those moral values, and wants to reward them. Such candidates might be Gavin Newsom, a powerful governor of California who is progressive and very tall and good-looking, or Gretchen Whitmer, who defeated the religious right when they tried to capture her and kidnap her when she was governor and stood up for her values and was empowered. We could do it, and we have to do it, because totems, as Hitler illustrates, have no boundaries and can take people along, lured by the effervescent power that they receive in their unity at his rallies. I find that explanation of Trump the most compelling reason why people have abandoned their reason, abandoned their ostensible values, abandoned their supposed Christian values, and worship Trump. That's all for today. Thank you very much from me and Democracy at Work. Bye-bye.